Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to The Last Ego on Earth. My name is James Scott Shoemaker, and today we have a lovely surprise for you. We have a conversation that I and my co-host Stephen Gable had with our soul sister Erin Werley here. Her book is called One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create. And since prior to this conversation we had with her, the book hadn't come in yet, but now I'm about halfway through chapter 2, and it's just lovely. Here on The Last Ego on Earth, it's normally a conversation through A Course in Miracles, but I kept getting this inspiration from Holy Spirit to have a conversation with Erin here, because the one thing is I know early on when I was learning about the Course that we can get streamlined into thinking that the Course in Miracles is the only way out, and that's not the case at all. The things that you do in the Course, yes, it's something that we must do, but that path can be led in all different directions, all different places, all different spiritual paths can lead us back to God. So when I heard that she was hearing the great I Am in her mind, and it was leading her home, I was like, man, I've got to get an interview with her or a conversation going with her, and I just made sure that I didn't know anything about her. I watched a little bit of one of her YouTube videos, and I was so intrigued, and we just started right off on this conversation that you're about to watch. I do want to really quickly apologize for my Zoom call. Here where I live, I'm up in the mountains, and I get horrible reception, so it's just I keep freezing in these things. In the future, when I have an interview, I'm going to have to be in my car and kind of drive somewhere that has a little bit better reception. So please forgive with me about that. And also, there's some sort of noise going on during this the interview. I hope that's not too annoying for you guys. And if that's there, we need to forgive that too, right? I did my best to edit it out, but it is still kind of a hum. Maybe I'm bringing it to your attention, and I apologize for that also. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I know all that's there, but the message is still here. And it was such a wonderful, beautiful conversation with Erin. So I hope you enjoy. I know Stephen is excited to get this out too. It's been a little while since we did the interview, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So peace be with you, brothers and sisters. I love you, and I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, guys, take care.
Hey.
Hey!
Hi.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Erin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Awesome.
We're just gonna jump straight on in, I guess. I'm just gonna do a quick intro real quick, and then we'll get going.
Sounds good.
All right. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to The Last Ego on Earth. My name is James Scott Shoemaker, and my co-host here is Stephen Gable, and we are going to have a wonderful conversation with Erin Werley. She is the author of One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create, and I am so excited to hear your story, Erin. I made sure not to know anything about you. I watched one video about you, and I was kind of guided by Holy Spirit to kind of just leave it at that. So it'd be like watching a movie, because I'm so intrigued with your story. So we'll just jump right on in and have you introduce yourself and get to know you. And one thing, instead of an interview, I like to think of these as conversations. So we're just all going to kind of talk and get to know each other.
That sounds fantastic.
So, all right. And if I freeze during this, I do apologize. I'm trying to work on my internet. So I'll just say that. All right, Erin, go ahead. We would love to hear just all about you. Go ahead.
Well, I'll do my best not to do too much about me, but I'll jump in. So I had a really typical upbringing. I was surrounded by love at home. I had a great home life. My parents did their best. They weren't perfect, but they did their best and they tried. But at school, oh my goodness, was I bullied. It started in third grade. And the crazy thing was I didn't know there was anything wrong with me. I thought I was fine. And one day, this other third grader said to me, my last name was Ignatz before I was married. And he started calling me Erin Egg Snatcher. And my
Okay.
face, right? My face just, I remember just flushing and thinking, I didn't know there was something wrong with me. And I just, because this other person said there was something wrong with me, it just carried on. I believed it. I believed, oh, there's something wrong with my name. That means there's something wrong with me. And all the kids picked up on it, that I was like totally affected by this. And everyone just started teasing me. And as I got older, it just grew into more severe bullying, to the point where like I would throw up before I would go to school every day. I was so afraid to go. And that continued on until I graduated high school, and I kind of got free of that then. But so that was my upbringing, very mixed, like at home feeling really safe, at school feeling really unsafe, and like there was just something wrong with me. I felt broken inside. And then into my 20s, I started drinking a lot and smoking a lot of pot to try to mask all these horrible feelings I had about just not fitting in the world, not being normal. I definitely never felt normal. I felt like there was something wrong with me. Everybody else seemed to have it figured out, but I was just like a mess, you know? And I didn't know at the time that everybody feels that way. You know, and so I went through most of my 20s like that. I was in a lot of relationships with men who didn't respect me. And I remember one day I was 28, I decided, enough. I'm not going to live this life anymore. I had graduated from college. It took me 8 years, but I graduated with a history degree, and that was 2008. And I remember I went on one interview, and they told me I was overqualified, and then I stopped sending out my resume. I was too afraid. Like I was just like, well, that doesn't work for me. Nobody wants to hire me, and that was my story for years. So I was working as a waitress for like all of my 20s. And when I was 28, I remember I made this decision in my mind: no more. I don't want my life to suck anymore. I have no idea how I'm going to fix it. No clue. But I've had enough. So I left the guy I had been living with for 3 years. I left him. I said, no more. I'm not putting up with people treating me like crap anymore. Again, no idea how to fix it. I moved into into the basement at my parents' house, and I kept waitressing, and I started going to school for nursing. And it was about 2 weeks after I decided, no more. I'm not going to put up with being treated like crap anymore, that I met my husband. He walked into the restaurant, and it was totally love at first sight. He's totally my soulmate. And he was on a journey of self-improvement, which I had never even like heard of self-improvement. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I was so brought up in the mainstream. I didn't know that you could like improve your life.
Right.
You know, didn't know it didn't have to be that way. So I just turned 38, so this was 10 years ago. So I started reading these self-improvement books, which, you know, it was like super general stuff, like Think and Grow Rich and stuff like that.
Right.
But I started thinking, oh my gosh, there is more to life than I've ever understood, and my life doesn't have to be this way anymore. So I left my husband in the dust as far as learning about this stuff. I started just reading everything I could get my hands on. And of course I came across the law of attraction. I was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. You know, this is what I need. And but I couldn't make it work all the time. It was frustrating because some of the things, and now I know it's like when you're dealing with something that doesn't affect anybody else at all, right? Like if you want to pull into a great parking space, it's super easy because nobody else is trying to project something else into existence for that parking space in that moment except you. But when you want to like put $1 million in the bank account, the bank doesn't believe that, like there's all these people that are thinking something else and creating something else that you have to go up against. But so anyway, when I first learned about it, I was like, well, I have to figure this out. And it was 2011, we had just lost our jobs. And we were like desperate. So I was like, well, I'll figure this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start channeling a divine being like Esther Hicks does. And No, I've never in my life contacted anything or tried. And I thought I was a little bit nuts. But again, we just lost our jobs and we didn't have anything better to do. So, so I started spending a lot of time meditating, and I started studying people that had not been born necessarily channeling something, but had started doing it later in life, and trying to see what they've been doing up to that point, which was basically meditating and listening while they were meditating, right? Not trying to block thoughts off, but instead being aware of the thoughts that came into their head. So I started doing that, and it took me a few months. And one day I was in the shower, and well, actually the night before I had written. I've always my whole life like written these things sort of in a trance and not had any idea what they were. So anyway, I wrote in a notebook, "We are all God and we are all one." And I went to sleep. I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And the next day in the shower, I remembered that, and I said, "Am I God?" And there was a voice in my head that said, "Yes."
That's awesome.
What does this mean? So I run out of the shower and I go to my husband's phone. I'm like, I think we're all God. What are you talking? What does that mean? What are you talking about? So anyway, I lay down and he started asking this voice questions, and yeah, and it turns out, so now I don't like to call it channeling, because I think that sort of indicates that there's something outside of us, right? Now I understand that's just our inner being, our inner self, and you can start communicating with it anytime. So I think when you say channeling, it seems more like it's something outside of you, right? And so that's my story. So the book that I wrote, One Truth, One Law, is the beginning conversations between my husband and my inner voice. So and it tells you exactly how to do what I did, exactly what my path was as far as what I did, and how you can start hearing that voice yourself.
That's amazing. Just hearing your process, because 10 years for me too. I was seeking a lot like you were 10 years ago, and I was reading The Law of Attraction. My interview that I just did, I was just speaking about that, the whole thing with the parking spots and all that. That you get to a certain point where you're doing these things, and I've managed to manifest $50 or something like that. You start bringing stuff to you, but then you're like, okay, this is really cool that I can do all this, but I want to know more. I want to know more about God. I want to start attracting that to me. That's what I want to know more about, more knowledge of how to get out of fear and guilt and things like that was my mission, because I was riddled with all that stuff. I had a lot of fear, a lot of guilt in me. I was scared of the world. I was scared of like the recession and all the things that were happening at that time. So my inner asking was, I just need help. It was my law of attraction was like, please bring me some, if you're out there, kind of thing. But for me, I asked about Jesus for myself. I said, Jesus, if you're real, I need your help. And he definitely answered for me. That very night, I could feel him come, like enter in my mind somewhere, and I could feel it all over my body. I call it God tingles, or I just could feel this, cradling feeling that I've never felt before. And then the very next day, the Course of Miracles came to me. So that was kind of, for me, I needed, the Course of Miracles undoes fear, and I had so much in me. That's what the mission was for me. But the same voice you're talking about, 10 years later has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And I call it Holy Spirit. You call it I Am. I could totally see that that's exactly the same thing. And like you said, it's that inner voice. And the stronger that it gets, the better the world becomes. And the fear starts dropping away. You just see it falling away more and more and more. And just love starts showing up. So, Stephen, you have anything to say, my friend?
Sure. By the way, Erin, I have read your book, and I found you on the internet. I think I was one of your first subscribers, actually, and I'm thankful that things are moving along for you. So I see a wonderful progress going on in your ministry. So I'm sure you're excited about it.
I am, yes. It's, and of course the fear, gosh, we all have that. We're all swamped with that until we start understanding, gosh, there's so much more going on inside of us.
Yes. Yes.
Well, one sentence that you mentioned in your website is you talked about unlearning everything blank 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 and learning blank blank. What is? Can you describe basically what do we need to unlearn and what do we need to learn?
Yeah, great question. So I have been trying to figure out how, because so many people have found me and said, I'm trying to do the exercises in your book to tap into my inner voice and start having these conversations. A lot of people have. A lot of people have read the book and started doing it right away, but there's other people that have not been able to hear it. And let me be clear, like, we all have this voice inside of us. It's just, are we recognizing it or not? Like, it's there. It's trying to get through to us. It's just, do we recognize it? So anyway, I've been trying to talk to I am, my source, and say, which is all of our source, but anyway, my version in my head.
Sure.
I've been trying to say, okay, what else can I tell people to help them on their path so that they can start getting connected and recognizing their own source voice? And what I finally got, which was the most amazing experience, and Stephen, you may have seen this video I did, but it was maybe 2-3 weeks ago now. It was incredible. An incredible message from Source was I had been missing the mark. I had been trying to help people, to teach people, and it's not about learning, it's about unlearning, was the message. And it was accompanied by, like you said, James, the God tingles, and just this beautiful energy pulsing through me. And I could see clearly this vision of a person that was all red, that was like dancing. It was really cool. But so anyway, the unlearning is, of course, when we come here, when we're a little baby, we are basically perfectly sourced. And unless we're unhappy because one of our physical needs isn't being met, and so we're crying because we're hungry, we have to be changed or something like that, or we want to be touched by our parents. We're grinning from ear to ear. That's how little babies are. They're inherently happy because they haven't learned all the things in the physical world they need to be afraid of and scared of so that they can stay safe and stay physical. So, of course, you learn it's not safe to cross the street without looking both ways. And that's true. You need that to stay physical as a little kid, right? But it also teaches you danger. There are things to be afraid of here. So we have to stay physical, learn all these dangers that put fear into our head and become part of our programming or our subconscious conditioning. So we have to learn these things to some degree. And then, of course, you have school teaching you that you don't know anything, right? That little kids are taught you aren't whole or perfect or okay as you are. You need to learn all these things to be a productive member of society. And your imagination is wrong, right? If you want the answer to be 50 billion and the teacher says the answer is 15, you're wrong. Your imagination is, So that's the kind of stuff we're learning. And, we're learning certainly through TV and movies that all these programmings that the mainstream wants us to believe about this world, right? That we're not whole as we are. And it goes much deeper. Like one of my recent movies, I talked about like Beauty and the Beast. You're programming little girls to basically believe that it's your job to go find a broken man and fix him.
Right.
And with the Little Mermaid, this wonderful mermaid, who doesn't want to be a mermaid? But, she wasn't enough as a mermaid. She had to be loved by a man. She had to turn into a human. She had to inherently change who she was at her core. And that's the sort of stuff you learn as a kid. And it's in everything. You aren't enough as you are. So unlearning is all about, as an adult, starting to recognize all these stories that have been playing your whole life. And of course, awareness, I'm sure, again, I haven't read the Course in Miracles, but I'm sure awareness over your thoughts must be a huge part of it. I mean,
sure. Yeah, A Course in Miracles states that there's one ego, just like there's one us. And the ego is in all of us as a connected, separated, connected aspect of ourselves, that it is there to separate us. So what you're talking about, where the little girls are looking to men to satisfy themselves, that's an ego trick, that you can't be whole without someone else. I mean, to an extent, that is true. I mean, we need to be one, but it's saying there's something outside of yourself that, that the ego is always trying to project outside of ourselves to keep us separated. So we got to go inward with Holy Spirit, and then we can find the truth, which it sounds like you're getting it, and so many more are getting it in this time, which is amazing. We've got so much going on right now that a lot of people are starting to say, "Wait a minute, what's going on? Something's not quite right." And you do see it in a lot of the movies. I have young daughters, and I know exactly what you're talking about. How even a lot of the narratives in the movies that you see nowadays, the narrative is switching to where you can find it within yourself. I'm going to use like Frozen or something like that from Disney, finding your own truth, that you don't need a man. And those things are starting to come around. So Holy Spirit is definitely working through anything that will wake up the egoic mind or drop it. And it's interesting too, when you were saying to unlearn, the Course in Miracles speaks about removing the blocks to love's presence. So that's all we're doing. We already are love, and we're removing that fear or that anger or that hate or the separation by asking Holy Spirit or I Am to help us undo that false self that we all have, the ego. So the unlearning is definitely a big part of it, to unlearn what, and find what we truly are, which is love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as you were saying, okay, Erin, when it's pointed out to you, you need to unlearn such and such, what then?
Yeah, absolutely. So really awareness over these thoughts, because they're all playing on autopilot in your subconscious, and that is, I'm going to say that, I've had an experience of oneness that most people haven't had, where my ego was completely gone, 100%. And I understand that we cannot inhabit these physical bodies without an ego. It is that veil that keeps us physical. And that, so my idea is a little bit different. My idea and what I get is a little different, because I believe our ego is our subconscious, and that it has been programmed since birth to work against us, but that we are capable of programming it to work for us. So awareness over the stories that are controlling our life, that are telling us that we're not enough, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough energy, we don't have enough money, nobody loves us, people don't like to be around us, we're not pretty enough, we're not muscly enough, we're not the right body weight, we have the wrong genes. All of these stories make up who we are today. Once you gain awareness over these stories that are playing nonstop in your head without you having any idea. Like I like to say that a lot of times, one of the first times people will really notice this is if you're in the kitchen and you drop a glass and it breaks, and you're kind of jarred back into the moment, and you're like, oh, what was that I was just thinking of? We all have these times when we're jarred into the moment by something, and we realize there was a thought we were thinking that we didn't even know we were thinking. So those are all these stories that are playing. Now, once you start becoming aware of that and start recognizing them, you can start rewriting them. Now, affirmations are sort of a way you can start doing that. The problem with affirmations is they focus on one tiny little thing. They don't address unlearning those stories. So you really need to start getting awareness when these stories are playing, which honestly, if you look at the science, it's like up to 95% of your day is your subconscious is, and I'm sure that the Course in Miracles deals with, being in the moment more. That's so important. So the more that you are in the moment and using your conscious mind, the less these stories are running on autopilot. But anyway, it is once you start rewriting those stories, which I think the best way that you can do that is get out a notebook or 50 notebooks and start writing them all down and forgiving them, but also saying, I'm going to recognize next time you're playing in my head, and this is what I'm going to play instead. So it's saying, it's me taking, if we take me when I was bullied as a kid, and my story was, I'm bullied, people don't like to be around me. My new story, when I hear that in my subconscious, when I gain awareness that that story is currently playing, I rewrite it and say, no, stop, or cancel, something like that, and say, I'm a person other people love to be around. And that's your new story. And it actually really works. You can totally reprogram your subconscious to be your best friend. Because it's great to want to be in the moment all the time. The more you can be in the moment, the more powerful you are. But the reality of it is our physical body is created, the blueprint of it is created to have the subconscious going sometimes. And so because, when you're brushing your teeth, your mind wanders. And sometimes and even when you're eating a potato chip, your mind wanders. All these things, when you're driving your car, I'm sure so many people can relate to driving their car and getting to your destination and being like, oh, I don't even remember driving here, right?
Right.
Conscious took over. So it's part of us, and it's okay, is how I like to say it. Like, we're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. We need to become the creators of our stories instead of the people who the stories happen to us.
Yes. From the Course of Miracles standpoint, when we connect to Holy Spirit, that's when we can do that. To align with Holy Spirit or the I Am, that's when we can rewrite the script, the ego script of fear, hate, separation. So I think it's lining exactly up with what you're speaking of. But would you agree that it's when you align with Holy Spirit or the I Am inside of you is when that script can be rewritten?
Some kind of parade is passing my house. I'm sorry.
Oh,
There's
no.
so much going on in the world right now. Now there's random parades. Yeah, I mean, all your power comes from recognizing that you're source.
It's your inside.
That's what your power is recognizing that you're a creator. You're not somebody who life happens to. All your power is recognizing who you are. And, I love when you said earlier, you said, you asked for help, you asked for guidance, you asked for Jesus to come into you. It is all about taking control back and saying, yes, come help me. I'm asking for help because so many people say, I want, but it's not the same thing as asking help. Wanting is not, it's saying, I want, but I don't know how it's going to happen. Say, I'm ready to receive, I'm accepting help, so like today I was feeling a little off balance with, we had some crazy storms last night and today, and people are having them all over the place. And so I was a little off balance. We were outside cleaning up outside our house all day, and there's power lines down 2 houses down. And so I told my husband, he's gonna have to. We have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I said, you're gonna have to watch the kids for a few minutes while I go lie down and center myself. And I did. I went down and lay down, and I asked for energy. And I asked for peace and energy to enter my body so that I could spread it through the world, and I did. If you don't ask, so many people think that wouldn't work for me. I don't know how to do that. Like, I've never taken a Reiki course. I have no formal training in energy, but I know that if I lie down and I close my eyes and I ask to be given the energy I need to spread peace and love, I'm going to be given it. And I feel that energy. I feel the tingles, and I can see it spreading. You know, it's not about, so that's another part of unlearning. So much as we've learned is, right, we don't have the answers inside of us. It's not true. You don't need to go to other people to tell you how to do things. You can ask for it and you'll be given what you need.
Yes. That's beautiful. That's the same info that I gotten from Holy Spirit also, is that once you say the big yes, and, you know, it's only been about a month and 2 weeks for me that I knew that for 10 years that I was supposed to teach A Course in Miracles. But I was always reluctant because I had the fear still in me, you know, and it was just coming around, you know, and all the stuff that's happening in the world. And it was just like, and I felt like I was on the edge of a cliff, and it was like, you got to go, you know, and it was like, oh, you know, and so you become transparent, but then you become a messenger for Holy Spirit to help wake up others. You know, that's kind of, you become that mission, and you know it, you get that same, you know, I'm an artist, so I've always had that creative juice, you know, flowing, and I knew that that was like connection with God. And I get that same feeling when I'm speaking to brothers and sisters and helping them wake up. So I know that it's coming from that same source, you know, and it's so beautiful when you do take that leap, and I do call them brothers and sisters because we are all one. But you know, Stephen here was the first person that kind of showed up in my, when I did my first video, he was like, hey, can I call you? You know, and we've just been speaking ever since. It's like this long lost brother that's just shown up for me to be there, you know, kind of as a mighty companion. That's what the Course calls it. But, you know, he's there to kind of be support, you know, through this journey. And it's been wonderful. And there's been many that have been showing up. And I'm just like, once you're willing to make that leap, how Spirit just supports you. You know, it's that same God feeling that I had when I very first asked, you know. And, you know, the very next day, the Course in Miracles showed up at my doorstep too when I asked for Jesus. And I kind of had an inner knowing that was my mission, you know. And and again, the Course in Miracles is not for everybody. You know, it really isn't. There's many paths to God. A Course in Miracles is just a speed up. You know, for me, I needed that speed up because I was in so much fear, and I had that inner asking. That's what Spirit brought me. You know, that was for me. But everything that you've said so far lines up. It really, really does. Especially the letting go, and also the whole idea of aligning and rewriting the script with that inner knowing. You know, it lines up perfectly from, I mean, I even feel it inside me when you're speaking. So I knew that when we were going to have this conversation, there was something special that was going to happen, because I really don't know much about you at all. But that's what's so neat about uncovering this, is that I'm finding out more and more that everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. You know, everybody's got a piece of the puzzle.
So true. You know, first I want to say, like, when you were saying you found Stephen and you found other people, like, I found that too, is once you say and you put that intention out, I want to find people that are spiritually aligned to me to be friends with, like, that you find them. Like, all you have to do is start putting your intention out, and the things that you need to further you on your path are going to come. But while you're saying, I don't know how that would ever happen, or I could never find anybody like that is into the same stuff as me. Like, I work with people, and they tell me that. They say, just because you've lived your whole life without finding somebody that kind of is into the spirituality stuff does not mean they're not out there and waiting for you. It means you need to say, I'm ready. Send it to me, you know? But yeah, oh gosh, we all have a part of the puzzle. And I got a review a few days ago on my book, and it was a 3-star review, which I've gotten really good at accepting, 1 and 2 and 3-star reviews. At first, the first few was really hard, but now I'm like, okay, just send out love. But anyway, he said this is just a Hindu, and I can't remember what the Hindu god was, Hindu god philosophy wrapped up in a U.S. self-help guru. And I thought, well, I think he's missing the point. the point is, of course, it's the same philosophy as
Sure.
your enlightened Hindu god. It's the same philosophy that everybody that understands oneness says. Of course, it's the same.
Right.
Same,
Yeah.
and it's okay that what I'm saying and what you're saying is the same thing people have been saying for thousands of years. It just makes it true,
Correct.
Right.
Exactly. Because that's, like I said, the ego wants to separate. So it's going to take aspects of the truth and try to separate it and say, my way is right way. And that's what the Course of Miracles teaches you, is to be, step yourself to the side and allow Holy Spirit to come through the truth, not the egoic aspect of separation, and allow the truth to come out in whatever way it's going to come. And, for there's going to be certain people that are going to listen to me. There's going to be certain people to listen to you right now that, we're all different instruments, right? We like different music. But it's saying the truth. They might look at me and go, I want some more jazz, or you know what I mean, or like some classical music or something like that, and that's okay. But that's what's the beauty in when Holy Spirit takes what you were and starts refining it and making it better. Not even better. You're uncovering what you weren't. You're becoming what you truly are, which is love, and it's beautiful. It's like so beautiful. Every day I wake up and I'm like, what's next? What's next? I mean, even with these conversations, like getting on, I was telling Stephen before we started, like, I'm a little nervous. But I knew that little nervousness isn't the true me,
Yeah, I get that. Every time I do a podcast or a radio interview, I get that. Of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not, this is a joke, but sometimes I'm practically with my head in the toilet. I'm so nervous, Today I was distracted by the storm, so I wasn't nervous about this, but I've probably done 30, 40 podcasts in the last 4 or 5 months. And
every time, right?
And that's okay,
It is okay. Yeah. And Stephen and I, we've learned to step aside and let Holy Spirit guide the conversation, because of course they're going to know more than we do, because our egos do try to sneak in and to kind of sabotage the information. Like, am I saying this right? Am I going to, you just got to let it flow. That's with anything.
It's so about letting it flow. I mean, let me give you an example. So I have wanted to make a course for months. Ever since before I wrote the book, I set an intention for this year I was going to release a course. And I've been, studying everybody online. I want it to be perfect, right? And so I'm trying to write out what it should be and everything. And I finally realized, oh, duh, of course, I can't do it that way. That's not how my flow works. My flow works getting online and talking. That's how it works. That's how I am comes out of me. If I'm trying to make it perfect and write it down beforehand, it's not going to be. It's going to be this person who's afraid to fail coming out, And so to get to your truth, I love that. You just got to let it flow, and not be worried about what it is you're saying,
Yeah. Just about anything.
Is that relevant? I know that's relevant to what you call your individual blueprint. Can you elucidate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So part of creation of this world is all these blueprints. When the world was originally created, blueprint is like a life path, or like a rock has a blueprint. Everything has a blueprint, because everything is alive, everything is energy. And so when we were born, we all were born with a blueprint. Now, there was an individual thought into our individual blueprints. It has to do with the day you were born, the minute you were born, and all these different things that people that are into numerology, people that are into astrology, all of those things are part of your unique blueprint. Anyway, your blueprint is your life path. It's what you are here to do. Now, most people are not on their life path. Most people are still like, if your life paths from here to here, and this is like fulfillment over here, most people are here and they're circling it because they are learning all the lessons, trying to get them onto the life path, but they're resisting it, right? So they have to keep in this pattern of learning the same lessons over and over and over again. But once you start overcoming your fears, getting in alignment with your flow, what you're actually here to do, and accepting it, not only finding out what maybe the next step is, accepting it and starting to take action towards it, then you sort of get onto your life path. But there's always, that's if you decide to basically participate in the game of life. You can always transcend it, become just source here. But that's a very different life path. Then you're basically living as a monk or living in the woods, just not caring about anything that happens in this life. So most of us are here to follow and our life path, and that's an individual decision, what you think works best for you. And of course, everybody has to decide that for themselves. But I think it's important to understand that so many of the incredibly enlightened gurus, if we want to become that, understand that those are people that didn't have worldly desires. And a lot of people get lost in wanting to emulate them, not understanding that they sort of opted out of the game of life in order to enlighten to the world. And I think that if you get lost in, this might be off topic, but if you get lost in wanting to emulate those people, you're sort of opting out of your blueprint. And is that really what you're here to do? Is that really the best way for you to contribute to our one world, So I don't know if that answers your question, Stephen. But
wow.
He said, wow.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's interesting. From the Course in Miracles perspective, that the script has already been written. In God's world, the whole time period is already done and over with. Especially the ego script of pain and suffering. Soon as the ego script happened, the atonement happened and fixed the script. Right. So now we are able to collapse time by connecting to Holy Spirit. And, doing our mission, and, when you're talking about blueprints, it's just triggering that's that very thing. Like you kind of have a mission when you come here, and you can kind of opt to do it or opt to not do it, I guess. You could get lost in the ego because you have to, in these bodies. It's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing to continue with that connection to Holy Spirit in all moments. It's a communication you have to agree upon. And then once you make that connection, you go, oh yeah, okay, I remember that feeling of happiness. You know what I mean? You go another 2 to 3 months of sadness, and then you're like, wait a minute, I remember that one time that I felt that way. Like, how do I ask, and then it comes back, and then you're back on the right track. And it's only your willingness to, it says little willingness in the Course, but to continue that, to that connection over and over and over. I get up in the morning, do a small meditation and say, Holy Spirit, please be with me through this day. And it makes it so much easier when I don't. When I don't do it, that connection can be lost. Even yesterday, I was telling Stephen I had a bad day yesterday. I've been on this high, roller coaster of awesome for about a month and a half. And I had a bad day yesterday. And I felt some anger, and I'm like, what is going on? And that's the iceberg that's inside of you of when you're ready to, from the Course in Miracles perspective, when those blocks start coming, you start embracing those blocks, and then you're able to let them go over to Holy Spirit, and then they'll take them from you. And life gets easier and easier and easier, the steps that you go with letting go.
And that's what you said, Erin, before, just in different words. You said the same thing. There is no disagreement between us. It's just sometimes the terms get in the way because the words can't really describe the reality. So we're stuck with them. And
that's true.
I have another question. The I am's voice, the inner voice. Is it your voice? Is it sound like your voice? Is it another tone?
It sounds exactly the same as my regular voice, but it has complete knowing. So that's how I tell the difference between, I call it the persona, I don't call it the ego, because that's how it originally came to me. So it's like you said, just different words, doesn't really matter.
Right.
But, so I recognize the persona always, because the persona is terrified, it's scared, and I am knows. I am has no fear. There's nothing to be afraid of when you understand you're everything. So that is how I recognize it. And I also, I know that if I ask a question and I'm asking it of myself, that I will be the one that answers it. So it's just, in my mind, the voice is always there. It's training yourself to recognize it. It's understanding that, source does not fear, and that's the voice you should be listening to. It's the voice most of us drown out by saying, that's crazy, that would never work, that's not what everybody else is saying. But that's your real.
Yes. Oh, it's beautiful. I just absolutely love this. I love that. I had no idea what we're jumping into, but it's the exact same. It makes me so happy to hear what you're saying, and just how amazing God is. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is. And this connection is so beautiful, that we're able to just kind of jump on and just do this and see what happens. And then the truth comes through, Real quick, I want to make sure that we get some of your information out. Is there anything that you would like to promote? Do you have some classes or any new books in the works or anything like that coming up?
Definitely. I want you to go read One Truth, One Law. It is an awesome book, and it really explains everything that's going on in the universe, and it shows you your part in it. So I did my best to make it as simple to understand, because when I originally, it's literally the transcripts from the first conversations between my husband and Source. And there was a lot of, and I've read other channel works, there's a lot of fluff, right? Where the Source is searching for the right English words. And so what we did was we edited out all the fluff and all of the basically like confusion. And so it's just the pure words. And so what I hear is it's easier to understand than anything else, because I published it 8 years after it originally happened. So that's after 8 years of more conversations. So I wanted to make sure that it was incredibly easy to understand. And what I hear is people are saying they've been seeking for years, and this explained things in a way that was so simple that nobody else has been able to do. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, I just ordered it, so it's on its way. I was hoping that it would get here before our interview and I could at least kind of put it, but I didn't want to spoil it. I really didn't want to spoil things. So
I think this was really good. I had a great time. I think we did great. High five to all of us.
Oh, by the way, Erin, I love the pajamas that you did one of your videos with.
Thank you for that. I was a little nervous, but I did a few more in my pajamas after that too.
That's cool.
It's so funny. All these things, all these fears that build up in our head, right? Sometimes, of things, I could never do that. Or what would people think of me? That's true. Nobody cares. Go be you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And to wrap it up too, you were talking about kids making fun of you when you were younger. Shoemaker was my last name, so you can only imagine some of the things that I got. But I know that very well. I mean, I had a lot of people like, "Hey, Shoemaker, make me some shoes." I remember my mom saying something like, "Well, the shoes that I'd make you."
It's not really an insult. It's not very clever, but yeah, as a little child,
I know. But as a little kid, it hurts, and it continues to fester. Absolutely. And I know that so well, and that's what the course is also teaching. I keep bringing it back to the course, of course. But, there are no small upsets in the course's standpoint, is that, they're all upsets and all separation stem from one problem. But they do start becoming a lot of things. The small thing that happened to you as a child ends up festering and becoming bigger and bigger if you don't know how to let it go. If you don't know how to uncover that, it just pretends to be all these other things. And you hear it, all of a sudden your wife says something to you when you're like 35, and the little kid hears the bully, you know, and then it hurts you more and it brings you down. And, you know, that separation starts happening. So it's a beautiful thing to know that there is an outlet to let go, you know, that we can hand it over to something higher than us, that can see outside the maze of upset and get it, you know, get us right on the, you know, onto the right path. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. This was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. Thank you so much, Erin. Real quick though, is there what's your YouTube channel again, so that people will know?
I don't even have an icon on my YouTube channel.
Oh, do you not? Oh, I'm sorry.
What's
Okay,
your
well,
name? Your name?
No, I mean like that circle that you're supposed to put your face picture.
Oh,
I can't even
okay,
figure out how to do that. So I don't know. If you go to erinwerley.com, there's the link to my Instagram and my YouTube.
Okay, there we go. Okay, your website then.
I
Okay,
I'm
great.
like the most technically challenged 38-year-old you'll ever meet. I don't know.
Don't worry. I've probably been freezing this entire time, so I'm right there with you. But I'm working on it. As long as the message is there, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with this conversation, Miss Erin, and we would love to have another conversation with you in the future at some point. That would be wonderful.
This is awesome.
Okay. And I can't wait to talk. I can't wait to talk to you after I've read the book too. It's going to be cool.
Definitely. All right.
All right.
Much love to everybody.
Much love to you too.
We love you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Prepare yourself from the birth to the dirt. Prepare yourself for all it's worth. Prepare yourself from the birth to the dirt. Prepare yourself, the last ego on earth. Prepare yourself from the dirt to the birth. Prepare yourself from the birth to the dirt. The last ego